All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, the real NBA season is about to begin, and I say that because it is stretch run time with an eye on playoffs as the All Star game festivities are now in the rear view mirror, and now it's all about seeing who's going to make that push to get to the NBA playoffs. And you look at the contested Western Conference, and of course, who is going to find a way to win this? You look at the Denver Nuggets at 41 and 18 right now. They have the best record in the West. They have a 5 game lead over the Memphis Grizzlies. And you have the reigning 2 time NBA MVP in Nikola Jokic, who is right in the mix to be the MVP once again. This guy is averaging a triple double, and he is definitely one of the most phenomenal players in the NBA currently. But now he's got a healthy Jamal Murray along with a healthy Michael Porter Jr., which has pushed Aaron Gordon a little bit down in the pecking order. But that's what you want if you're the Nuggets. You definitely want to have depth. And speaking of that depth, we saw the Denver Nuggets also pick up guard Reggie Jackson. And for Mike Malone, that Nuggets head coach, hands down, this is the best team that he's had. And if the Nuggets can keep everyone healthy, they're definitely going to be very formidable come playoff time. You look at the Memphis Grizzlies, and just a couple weeks ago, they were neck and neck with the Nuggets for the top spot in the West, but they have struggled. They've gone down a lot in the standings. And you look at this Memphis team, they are as talented as anybody in the NBA, but it's going to come down to this team's maturity or lack thereof. And I think that's going to be a make or break scenario for the Grizzlies coming down the stretch and into the playoffs. Now, don't look now, but the Sacramento Kings appear to be playoff bound. The Kings are 32 and 25. They're currently the third seed in the Western Conference, and you look how things are coming together under Mike Brown as the Kings head coach. We know about De'Aaron Fox, and now you got him and Domantas Sabonis, as well as Malik Monk coming off of that bench. And this Kings team is believing, and as they're believing, they definitely have a legit shot to get to the postseason. Now you look at the Los Angeles Clippers, and I've talked about them before. They're the biggest if in the NBA because if the Clippers can keep everybody healthy, most notably Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, this team could be very formidable. We saw them just, pick up Russell Westbrook. It's going to be interesting to see how Westbrook factors into this team. Are they going to start him, or is he going to come off the bench like he was doing for the Los Angeles Lakers? That's going to be very interesting to see right there. Los Angeles was also very busy at the trade deadline, picking up the likes of Eric Gordon, Mason Plumlee in the front court, and then Bones Highland. So, if you're Clippers head coach Ty Lue, how do you get all of this talent to work together? That's going to be important. Now, you also got the Phoenix Suns right there, and of course, we know about what the Suns did prior to the trade deadline, picking up Kevin Durant. And you just have to ask yourself, how dangerous will this Suns team be? Because you look at the scoring, you got Kevin Durant when he's healthy, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and of course Chris Paul. Now, the Suns did give up a lot of their depth as well as their perimeter defenders. So, what Phoenix is definitely going to try to do, they're going to try to go out there and outscore people. But Phoenix is another one of those teams. It comes down to keeping everybody healthy because CP3, KD, and Booker all have had injury issues. So that's going to be a big thing for the Suns right there. You look at this team who's currently in sixth place in the Western Conference, and that's the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks can be an enigma here because we know what Kyrie and Luca can do individually, and it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be able to mesh on the fly. That is going to be the interesting thing. To me, I think Kyrie going there would be good if this was an off-season move. The Mavericks could take the first half of the season, try to figure things out. But right now, I'm not sure if they're going to have enough time to try to get it going. They'll be in the playoffs, yes, but I'm not sure if this duo is going to have enough time to figure it out. You look at the teams that are in the mix for the play-in tournament as well. You got New Orleans at 7 right now, Minnesota at 8, Golden State at 9, and then Oklahoma City at 10. And for New Orleans, let's not forget this team was a lot better off in the standings, obviously earlier in the year when they were healthy. And can they get Zion Williamson back at some point? Brandon Ingram's been out of the lineup, due to injuries as well. This Pelicans team, we saw what they could do slightly last year when they got to the playoffs and they gave the Phoenix Suns a scare. If New Orleans can get healthy, and that's another big if right there, they can be a problem. I look at Minnesota. I personally questioned them trading D'Angelo Russell because we never really got to see what him, Anthony Edwards, and Carl Anthony Towns long term could potentially be. You got Carl Anthony Towns out injured still with that calf injury. How is he going to come back? You acquired Mike Conley. You still got Anthony Edwards, who is playing the best ball of his brief career. How dangerous will the Timberwolves be down the stretch? We got to wait and see. The Golden State Warriors, they definitely want to get Steph Curry healthy. But you look at this team, the defending NBA champions, you look at the talent that's there, but it just hasn't come together so far this season. A lot of injuries, a lot of age as well. And like I said earlier this season, for Golden State, they can't play like they did previously, trying to simply outscore people. They got to play some D. And Golden State has not been getting it done at the defensive end so far this season. And then you look at their splits. They're 22-7 at home, but they're 7-22 on the road. The Warriors definitely have to find a way to pick it up down the stretch and get some cohesion. I'll tell you like this. Oklahoma City's they're 28-29. They're currently 10th in the West. And I think them getting to the play-in tournament and possibly the playoffs would be good. For this young team. Obviously, OKC is in the middle of a rebuild. Know that the second overall pick, Chet Holmgren, is out for the entire season with a foot injury. But you look at what Shea Gilgeous Alexander has become, and he's one of the top scorers in the NBA. And for the Thunder, they're not going to be a pushover as far as the teams that are trying to catch them to get into that play-in tournament. And speaking of the teams that are trying to catch OKC, you look at Utah in 11th, Portland at 12, and then the Lakers at 13. And the Lakers, they're only 2 games behind Oklahoma City. And the Lakers, they got to put it together. I mean, they're getting LeBron back, they're getting AD back, but of course, with Anthony Davis, he's another one. He can't stay healthy. So that's another big if right there. You look at the talent that the Lakers were able to acquire with the trade deadlines with the likes of bringing back D'Angelo Russell to the fold for Los Angeles. Rui Hachimura from the Washington Wizards. That's also a good look for the Lakers as well. Can they put it all together? For Portland, they've been up and down all season. Do they have enough to make a push to get to that play-in tournament? We got to wait and see. And then the Utah Jazz. This was and is a rebuild and transition year for the Jazz. They got off to that hot start. They've cooled off. But even at the end of the day, I think they will still be very formidable coming down the stretch. And then you look at the Eastern Conference. And of course, Boston and Milwaukee are leading the way. The Celtics have the best record in the league, while the Bucks are just a half game behind them. But then you got Philadelphia at in third right now, just 3 games back of Boston. It's going to be interesting to see if the Sixers can take advantage of things ahead of them. And I say that because we know Jalen Brown injury, but then of course the Giannis wrist injury for the Bucks, and that's going to be important because I don't see Giannis pushing it right now, at least because he wants to be fresh for the playoffs. The Bucks have 24 games left in the regular season. He's definitely going to sit out at least 5 games, in my opinion. I'm not a doctor, but I do see him sitting out, several games in order to get fresh to make this postseason run. And if you're the Bucks, you pick up a guy like Jay Crowder, and that's huge. And I don't think that it was talked about enough at the trade deadline because Milwaukee was missing that last year. when PJ Tucker left in free agency. I know that the Chris Middleton injury did affect their opportunity to repeat last year, but nonetheless, having a perimeter defender like Jay Crowder is definitely going to help. We know about the size and length of the Bucks with Giannis, Chris Middleton, Brooke Lopez, and Bobby Portis, and of course Drew Holiday, who is a true point guard. All of that will factor in for this team in the playoffs, and Milwaukee is once again going to be a tough out. You look at the way the Boston's playing, the best record in the NBA, and like I talked about several days ago, very motivated. And this team just got Marcus Smart back. They're going to get Jalen Brown back. If they can keep the Williamses healthy, Grant and Robert, and you think about the way that Jason Tatum is playing this year, as well as the veteran leadership of Al Horford, Boston is once again going to be formidable. Now with Philly, again, it all comes down to Joel Embiid, but it's also the pieces around Joel Embiid. And can the Sixers find a way to overtake the Bucks and Celtics in the playoffs? That's going to be the most important thing. Do they have enough to beat them in a 7-game series? We got to wait and see. You look at Cleveland sitting right there at number 4 right now. And for the Cavs, I think they're once again postseason bound, and they're going to be a dangerous team as well because they have a finisher in Donovan Mitchell. At number 5, this is interesting, and I talked about this slightly the other day with the Brooklyn Nets. They're not gonna just roll over for people now that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are no longer there. This is still a talented team. Spencer Dinwiddie can play, Mikal Bridges can play, Cam Thomas can play, Cam Johnson can play as well. And you look at this Nets team, and it looks like everybody's finally on board, which is something that we have not said about the Brooklyn Nets in a very long time. And it's one of those where I think this is going back for the Nets to the way that it was before they got Kevin Durant and Kyrie, when was a Kenny Atkinson led team. This is going to be a lunch pail group, and whenever you are facing a lunch pail group, you better go out there and pack a lunch in order to beat them. So the Nets are still going to be a very tough team in the second half of the season. The New York Knicks are currently sixth in the East, and not only at this point do I feel that the Knicks have what it takes to play some postseason ball, I think they have enough in their arsenal to avoid the play-in tournament. Meaning, you look at the Knicks, they pick up Josh Hart prior to the trade deadline. Another move, in my opinion, that I feel that flew under the radar. Josh Hart is a very versatile player, and that's what you need in a Tom Thibodeau system. A guy that's going to go out there and do whatever it takes at either end of the court. Jalen Brunson, again, like I said the other day, is playing the best ball of his career, and of course the complementary players around that. So I think this Knicks team, not saying that they're going to have a championship, no, but nonetheless, this team I do think has what it takes to be one of the top 6, and I think that is a huge shot in the arm for this organization. Now, you look at those teams that are in that playing tournament mix right now in the East. Miami's 7, Atlanta's 8, Washington is ninth, and then Toronto is 10th, and then you got the Bulls in 11th and the Pacers in 12th. I'll say this, Miami just picked up Kevin Love. That's huge because I feel like this is a guy that Pat Riley always wanted. He's not getting prime Kevin Love, but I think Kevin Love still has something in the tank, and I still think that he has something to prove after leaving Cleveland. You look at the Atlanta Hawks, of course, just parting with Nate McMillan as their head coach today. How is that going to, or is it going to light a fire under this team? As some people do feel that the Hawks should be better than 29 and 30 at this point. You look at the Washington Wizards. Washington's one of those teams. They're going to try to outscore you with the likes of Bradley Beal, Kyle Kuzma, and Kristaps Porzingis. So the Wizards play an exciting brand of ball. Will it be enough for them to be postseason bound? We got to wait and see. The Toronto Raptors, they've taken a big step back this season, but will they have enough to hold off the likes of the Bulls and Pacers to get to the play-in tournament? There's a possibility there, and I say that because, of course, the Bulls got some bad news today. They kind of already knew it, that Lonzo Ball was gonna be shut down for the season, and, we really haven't been able to see what the Bulls could be if they had Lonzo along with DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. So, that really changes the dynamic for them, and can they get to that play-in tournament? I'm not sure. The Indiana Pacers with Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner. They've been exciting, but it hasn't been enough to always win games for the Pacers. And then you got Orlando at number 13. It's a scenario where Orlando's 24 and 35. They're showing a lot of signs of improvement this year, especially with the potential rookie of the year and Paulo Banchero. But I'm not sure, I'll take it a step further. I don't see Orlando making that jump to get to the play-in tournament. And of course, if you're Charlotte and Detroit in the East, you're just trying to play out the stretch. And the same thing could be said for Houston and San Antonio out west. So I look at it like this in the East: Boston, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Cleveland are locks for the playoffs. The Nets and Knicks will be playing postseason ball. Will it be in the play-in tournament or just getting through to the playoffs? We got to wait and see. That race for the play-in tournament with the likes of Miami, Atlanta, Washington, and Toronto. I think Miami will step it up a little bit. I think Atlanta will step it up a little bit as well because again, it's a scenario where you can't fire the players, and Nate McMillan got fired for this team underachieving. So obviously, there's more to it than meets the eye. But nonetheless, I think the Hawks will come out, to begin this second half of the season a little bit motivated. On the flip side, in the West, Denver, I think at this point they're a lock. They're probably going to finish with the best record in the West. Memphis will get it going, and I still think this Memphis Grizzlies team will be formidable in the postseason. The biggest thing for me with the Grizzlies is I think their biggest opponent is themselves. You look at Sacramento, they can smell and see the finish line, and I think the Kings will be postseason bound. The Clippers will be there. The Suns will be there. The Mavericks will be there. Can New Orleans get healthy? That's gonna be the interesting thing. Can Golden State get healthy? That's gonna be interesting as well. Minnesota as well. Um, the Lakers. I think it's gonna be a battle to get into that play-in tournament with the likes of the Lakers, Golden State. I'm going to put Minnesota and Oklahoma City in that mix, but I think Oklahoma City has the potential to fly under the radar to get to the postseason to the play-in tournament. Excuse me. Due to the fact that Oklahoma City is playing with house money, nobody expected them to be as competitive as they are, and this team is just young and hungry. They're full of life, and they're going out there and ball. So if you're the Lakers, you're going to have to find a way to pack a lunch to jump over Portland, to jump over Utah and, battle OKC. And it's not going to be a picnic. Utah's not going to roll over, and neither is Portland. So if you're the Lakers, you got to dig down deep and find a way. So, nonetheless, this second half of this NBA season is going to be very interesting when it gets kicked off this Thursday evening. And of course, before you know it, about a month from now, we'll be looking at you know the real final stretch of the season, getting ready for the postseason. But nonetheless, the real NBA season is here. Who's going to find a way to make that push to get to the playoffs? So if you're a fan, just sit back, watch it on your phone, computer, television, whatever, because the real excitement of this NBA season is set to begin. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off. Saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.